Vibes in 5.
Alright, this is another exclusive edition of Vibes in 5, Ghana's only social media celeb talk show. And once in a while, we go back to learn, knowledge. We go back to seek knowledge from people who have lived on this earth for long. And today, I'm having this interview with one of Ghana's foremost, veteran sports presenters. His name is Lartey Senior. Lartey Senior is 90 years old, and we are going to tap into his wisdom. We're going to tap into his knowledge to find out what he knows about Ghana in 90 years, or what he knows about Ghana, living in Ghana and 90 years of age. You're welcome to Vibes in 5, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Vibes in 5.
What shows were you hosting on GBC back in the day? Now let's do sports.
Yeah, I was
sports stalwart.
I was hosting. I started with sports preview on radio.
All right.
Then Spotlight on Sport, also on radio.
All right.
Then Talking Sport on radio.
On TV?
Yeah, no, Talking Sport on radio.
So 3 shows on radio.
That's right. Then I crossed over. I started doing television programs. The first television program, sports, that I hosted was called Sports Digest.
Okay.
And it was a very tough program, even though it was sport. At that time, freedom of speech in Ghana was very limited.
Okay.
And people found that the only place they could speak their minds properly was on a sports program. And Sports Digest was tough. I had a critic on the program called Tommy Thompson.
Okay.
May God bless his soul. He's no longer there. Tommy Thompson was a very sharp critic. And he made people sweat.
Wow.
If you went into that program without proper preparation, then you sweat. I can remember. I don't want to call names. Some of them are dead. Yeah.
Wow.
And then from Sports Digest, I introduced my own program on GTV called something with. I always forget the name.
The Hall of Fame?
The Hall of Fame.
The Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame. I introduced Hall of Fame. Hall of Fame was featuring good sportsmen and women,
Wow.
people who had gained distinction
Wow.
in the area of sports in Ghana, especially those of them who had been good enough to attend Olympic Games. That was the initial qualification.
Okay. Olympia.
Before we were, but later we broadened the base, and a whole lot of people, Roy Ankara, the whole lot.
Azumah Nelson.
Azumah Nelson never appeared on that program.
Why?
It is one of the pains in my heart today. Azumah Nelson fought a man called in Australia, and I did a commentary on that fight. And when Azumah Nelson was climbing into the ring, he was wearing a cap, which normally chiefs wear.
Yeah.
With that hats designed, it was designed in such a way they have hats in gold against the background on the cap.
Yeah.
And when he was entering it, I said, Azumah Nelson was entering the thing with a chief's cap. And I was sure, as a commentator, that his victory was guaranteed. I think somebody misinterpreted this thing to Azumah Nelson. And I did everything I could to get him to take part in my program, and he never came. And it's something that hurts me up to today.
Have you been able to meet him one-on-one?
No, we haven't. We've met, hurriedly and places, but that's that. He never appeared on that program. I interviewed our football maestro, Abedi Pele. I interviewed Razak, who won the Africa Best Footballer at one time. Wow. I found them to be very boring. And they themselves told me, said, we are very boring. Razak, I asked what he did in his spare time. He said, I just sat down and watched TV.
Yeah, watched TV. One section or a section of people who ask a lot of questions, or whose job is to ask questions, will be journalists.
Yes.
You are a senior journalist,
Yes.
a senior presenter.
Yes.
Do you think when the time is up for us to ask questions as journalists, when politicians come around or mount rally platforms, do we ask them the right questions? Observing for some time now.
Sometimes we do. Sometimes, many times we don't.
Many times
we do. You see, I look at the standard of journalism in my time.
Yeah.
When we didn't have all the facilities that you have today. This time you have excellent microphones. You have recording devices that are highly sophisticated. You sit here and you go to the internet, you get all the information that you need. In our time, it wasn't like that. You had to foot it, walk, or take a taxi or something to be able to. You need just a little bit of information. It can take you a whole month.
Wow.
Yes. It can take you a long time to get that bit of information. Today, it isn't like that. And I think because it's so easy, people are taking it easy. Okay. They're following that easy route. They're not bothered. I watch reports on radio, on television, press conferences, and the questions they ask, it tells you that they don't prepare their minds before they go to the press conference.
And that's a big problem.
Yeah, it is a big problem. It's part of it. Then it means you've not been properly trained. Because the GIG, Ghana Institute of Journalism, is supposed to train you to be able to cover events effectively. You just don't go there and relax.
So would you say standards of journalism has fallen?
It has fallen. It has fallen terribly. You see, and there's a lot of political influence has gone into journalism. Some of the journalists are fronting for politicians, for political parties. So some of the reports on radio and television, some of the interviews, and you know, I'm not saying that I have come from a super world of journalism, but I think the basic, I'm still teaching.
You're still teaching?
Yes, I'm teaching presentation.
Where?
At what you call Accra Film School. That's where I teach.
Even at 90, you're still teaching?
Yes, I'm still teaching. And when the students come, some of them are graduates. The basic knowledge that they should have, it's not there. It's not this.
And does that make your work difficult?
It does. I had a lady from West Abidjan recently. Yeah. What we call the country.
Abidjan,
Côte d'Ivoire. Her standard, as I compare to the students that from Ghana, there's a big difference.
There's a big difference.
Yeah.
As in her standard is up.
It's more, she's more informed. Our students, most of our people, it's a weakness. We don't read. We don't read. We don't go out to read for just reading's sake. Unless there's an examination attached to it, we don't bother.
So journalists have failed us?
They haven't failed us.
Okay.
But they're not doing as best as they should.
Which other institutions are not doing as best as they should?
Well, you're talking about institutions.
Yes.
What are the basic institutions we have in Ghana? We have the executive, we have the legislature, we have the judiciary, and then we consider the journalists as a fourth estate. These are basic. The corruption has managed to find its way into all these institutions. So what they've achieved so far, they could have achieved 10 times better than what they can show now. Corruption, yeah. You see, most of the institutions are not doing their work properly. You see, I sit here and in the morning I stand up there on my balcony and I watch people going to work. And I say, most of these people are not working. They are taking pay for nothing. Most of our chaps, especially in the civil service and the public service, a lot of the people who are employed there, they don't work. They do not work. Otherwise, this country will not be as it is.
But they get paid.
They get paid.
Is it that somebody is not checking so the right people?
That's one reason. Supervision has run away from the civil service, public service. When I was a civil servant, we had attendance book. In the morning, you report, you state the time you arrived. And after a certain time in the morning, they draw a line under the names that have reported. And the man at the top will study the attendance book. If it is found that you are a regular, constant, habitual latecomer, they will deal with you. If they find that you are not improving, they send you out. So everybody was afraid to toe the line.
But people are still clocking. The clocking system.
What are they doing with the clocking? When they clock and they reduce it, they translate the clocking to paper. And what do they do with it? I don't know. Maybe they are doing. You see, in the private sector, the situation is not as serious in the private sector as it is in the public sector and the civil service.
Wow.
I've been in the civil service. I've been in the public service. GBC was once a civil service department, and then it became a public service.
Looking at the way things are going for Ghana, what do you see happening to us in a few years?
That is where I have my belly ache. This I'm not headache, but that's where I have my belly ache, because I have children, I have grandchildren in this country, and all these people, maybe a few of them may be able to travel outside, but almost all of them, they will survive in Ghana. And if things are going the way they are now, what is their future? How lucky are they going to be?
Do you see a bright future?
I don't see a bright future. In the midst of so much, we are just messing up. I can't see a very bright, if we continue the way we're doing now, I can't see a bright future. It's not. Look, just take simple thing, our forests. Our forests. Yesterday, I was watching a documentary on forest destruction in Sierra Leone. I watched it yesterday. And it applies to Ghana. And if we are destroying our forests, what is our future? What is the future for our children?
How about water bodies?
Water bodies, same problem. This, what the Galamsey thing, can we fight it? Are we going to succeed fighting it? The present administration has taken it up. It's a good thing. But can we succeed? Can we do it? Because it looks like some big toes are involved.
Okay.
Big people are, even chiefs are involved.
And it's making it difficult.
It's making it difficult. The timber business, the chiefs are there. What I saw yesterday from the documentary.
So do you think corruption can be stamped out entirely?
Well, it cannot be stamped out entirely. That is an impossibility. But it can be reduced drastically.
Okay.
That can happen. It will get to a stage where before you attempt to practice corruption, you think twice.
You think twice.
That's what's happening in the advanced countries. They have corruption, but it's not as pervasive as it is in our place, where people are corrupt with impunity. The fearless corruption.
Did it start now?
It started a long time ago. You know, look, in our first republic, when we became not quite fully independent, I remember the story of some gentlemen in government who took a bribe. They took a bribe from the contractors who constructed the Winneba Road, Kasajian. They call them Kasajian. Yeah, they took a bribe from them. You see, and one of them took the bribe and submitted it to his superior and said, "This is what they, you know." And two of the people who were involved were jailed. They went to jail for taking a bribe. Yes. Ghana is a great nation. Great nation, yes. great. We have everything that makes a great nation. In fact, the colonial country or government that came to rule Ghana, we are more gifted than that country, which is Britain. Ghana is more gifted than Britain.
Ghana is more gifted than Britain. So but that gift that we have, is it reflecting?
It's not reflecting. That's the problem. It's not reflecting in our lives. Right now, I know that a lot of Ghanaians are finding it difficult to make it.
Why?
Yeah, we're finding it difficult. They can't make ends meet. And that's one reason why fighting corruption is difficult. People are suffering. I know. I live among my people.
Yeah. And
I know how much they feel. It's terrible.
And who is the cause of this suffering?
I think we are the cause. We are the cause. Ghanaians are the cause.
What actions or inactions?
Well, let me explain.
Yeah.
When we have a government right now. Who are in the government? They are not Portuguese. They are not Americans.
Mm-hmm.
They're not English people. They are Ghanaians.
Yeah.
They form the government. We put them there. So they are our representatives. So whatever they do, they're doing it in our name. And if we don't put the right people there, whose fault is it?
It's us.
It's our fault. It is our fault.
But so, before we give them the mandate, they don't preach the other side of the coin to us.
Because
everything they tell us.
Because what they tell us, we don't ask them proper questions. You see, when you go to a civilized country like Britain, going around and canvassing for votes is very difficult. They don't hold rallies. They few rallies, very, very few. Yeah. And when you organize a rally, few people will attend. They don't attend like we do.
They don't have time.
And they'll ask you questions. You tell them something you intend to do. They will go into it with you. They will ask you questions to prove that you are capable of doing what you're saying you are doing.